All right, let's talk about something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. We're going to explore a truly radical vision for our future. A city that isn't just built, but is actually, well, grown. Just imagine that for a second. A living metropolis that responds to its environment and even to us. So let's start with a really big question, right? What if our sprawling concrete jungles, the places we live, what if instead of just cracking and falling apart, they could actually heal themselves? Like actively repair and regenerate on their own?
And here's the kicker. What if, while they're healing themselves, they could also heal us? I mean, that's a wild idea, isn't it? It's this concept that connects the health of our cities directly to our own personal well-being.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we first have to understand the problem. And the problem is, well, our cities are kind of sick. Experts call it a triple-coupled burden, which is a fancy way of saying there are three massive interconnected crises that are messing with our health every single day.
First up is something we all feel, especially in the summer: the suffocating urban heat. You know the feeling, right? All that concrete and asphalt just soaks up the sun's energy and then blasts it back out, making our cities way, way hotter than the areas just outside of them.
Then, burden number two, air pollution. And we're not just talking about smog you can see. We're talking about these really nasty, tiny little particles called PM 2.5. They're so small they can get deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream. It's not great. And the third one, this one's a bit more subtle. It's the constant low-level stress that just comes with city life. That background hum of anxiety that messes with our bodies and minds, affecting everything from our heart rate to just our ability to think clearly.
So that's a pretty grim picture, right? But what if there was a way to tackle all three of those things at the same time? Well, that is exactly where this vision of Topology City comes in. It's a whole new way of thinking about how we build our cities.
And at the core of this whole thing is a huge shift in thinking. It's this idea of going from ornament to organ. So instead of a city park just being a pretty decoration, it becomes a functional, living organ, like a lung or a kidney, that's actively working to keep the entire city healthy.
Now, this isn't just some new buzzword. Topology City is really smart because it takes the best parts of other ideas and puts them together. You've probably heard of smart cities, right? With all the sensors. And maybe biophilic design, which is all about bringing nature into our spaces. Well, Topology City takes both of those and fills in the missing piece by combining real biological processes with real-time feedback from us.
Okay, so how does this actually work? Let's dive into the 4 key technologies that make this whole living city thing possible. And trust me, this is where the sci-fi stuff starts to feel very, very real.
First up, we've got something called biogeocast. Now, just imagine 3D printing a building, but instead of plastic or concrete, you're using bacteria. No, seriously. You put down a biodegradable frame, add some special microbes, feed them a mineral-rich liquid, and they literally grow super durable structures, like drainage channels. This could slash our need for all that carbon-heavy cement.
All right, the next piece of the puzzle is a concept called biofeedback. All this really means is that the city can listen to our bodies. It picks up on our subconscious signals, like when we're stressed out, and then it can actually react to that in real time.
And that leads us right to the next piece of tech, the smart grid. The best way to think about this is like the city's nervous system, or even better, a city-scale Fitbit. It uses sensors to measure things like our heart rate and even how dilated our pupils are, all to figure out the collective stress level of a crowd. And then, get this, it subtly changes the lighting and the background sounds to help calm everyone down, all without you even noticing it's happening.
So what about that heat and pollution? Well, the system has a two-pronged attack for that. You have the Smog Mini, which is basically a set of tiny towers that act like the city's lungs, filtering out all those dangerous little particles. And at the same time, you have the hybrid water wall, which acts like the city's skin, using this really clever surface to cool the air around it, totally passively.
Okay, but this isn't just some cool idea on a PowerPoint slide, right? This is actually happening. It's being put to the test right now on the streets of Tel Aviv in some really groundbreaking pilot programs.
So they've picked 3 very different spots. There's the super busy Rothschild Boulevard, the dense, crowded Florentine Quarter, which is perfect for tackling pollution, and then Park Hamasila. This is a long, thin park where they're testing something really fascinating called the Mobius Mind Walk. It's a path with a special shape that's designed to actually reduce your mental stress just by walking on it. How cool is that?
So how do they know if this is actually working? Well, they've set some incredibly ambitious, measurable goals. Let's start with the heat. The target for that hybrid water wall is to cool the area around it by up to 5 degrees Celsius.
Think about that. On a scorching summer day, that is the difference between an unbearable sidewalk and a place you actually want to be.
Next up, air quality. The goal for that smog mini network is to slash harmful pollution by a massive 20% in those specific hotspots. We're talking about creating literal pockets of fresh, clean air right in the middle of the densest parts of the city.
And finally, what about us, the people? The target here is a 10% improvement in our collective stress levels. They measure this using something called heart rate variability, which is basically a key sign of how well your body can cope with stress. Now, a 10% boost might not sound like a lot, but medically that is a huge deal. The city is literally being designed to calm our nervous systems. But look, the ambition here is so much bigger than just one project in Tel Aviv. This is really about creating a whole new blueprint for how we design, build, and actually live in our cities, all across the globe. So what Topology City is really giving the world is what they call a design grammar. Think of it like a recipe book or a set of Lego instructions. It's a collection of rules, modules, and open-source plans that any city, anywhere, can take, tweak for their own local needs, and use to start growing their very own living, responsive city. And that really leaves us with one final thought. The next time you're walking around your own neighborhood, take a look at your streets and just ask yourself, is my city just a place that's built to be lived in? Or could it one day become something more? Could it one day be something that's truly alive?